Israel feel pain. Devils lies on the rocks without shame. Who's to blame? But us, we trust one and trust the devil and uplift your hard wall. A mighty power frees minds, a Gentile scholars lies to shower to the wise that was blinded. A strange land prophesied, lost tribes became Philosophy. Apocalypse of Abraham, 32:16, 400 years coming in ships, the chains being whipped. Ezekiel 1949, placed in the pit, dying in feces and piss. Sitting next to skeletons, 350 million Paris in the middle passage. Some sisters gave birth to your bastards, creating malarious trios from the poison of demonic semen. Being raped by perverted beasts and he would have thought of jungle fever. A liar wall said them devils evil. I see the shadow called deceiver in the image of a non-people, speaking the tongue off balance with the rhythm off beat from the heart that the wolves eat. February the 14th, they feast in ceremonies and tights filling the rush. The Israelite blood in Ghana who they first crush. With the help of Hamites, praising Muhammad as their prophet, rupture the dynasty of Zah, placing the mind in a genie bottle only for a time. 1969, first Israelite shine in the Mona, kingdom of Yah, resurrect the lost tribes. As Israel feel pain. Come on, devil's lies on the rocks without shame. What? Who's to blame? But us, we trust one. And trust the devil and uplift your hard wall. Lost tribes of Israel feel pain. Devil's lies on the rocks without shame. Who's to blame? But us, we trust one. And trust the devil and uplift your hard wall. My mental plane, range celestial terrain, power range, glass stainless, ascended master in the rain. Return, rearrange your animated matrix. No escaping, ship shaping, incarnated awakening. Numerian Texas label secret to those stargazing for the fate of Jacob. Climb ladder, shattering to the 12th planet. Clouds magnetic, Yah's eye vision, lightning striking. Eden fighting with force of Dami. Notice my llama, controlling karma. My thorns, Mars, master with law as a rule savior. My behavior permeates dark matter in four chambers. Earthbound and physical. Myself, I'm a stranger, really an angel. Trap prolonged from anger. Stargating, use 6-point triangles to answer a trap my temple. To elements of wise intelligence. To a land of never end. Losing 5 senses to senselessness. Vision and vision's appearance of Sirius. Aligning every pyramid. The minds of builders of sick corruption. Psychic ghosts. Allahayim development has been arrested since New Atlantis. Yah bless my vocab. It's beyond lettermen. The king is solo. Controlling the global from electromagnetic oval of immortals with techniques. One with Levitical priests, sacrifice truth instead of beast meat. Secret science, initiate gods and right knowledge. The son of Enoch, Hallelujah. Blessed be the rock, Yahweh Ahaya. With my Ayashah, we rise higher. Etana, Matazaryam, Bain Yasharahla. Torah we follow to Makuba, take Zion. To the land of promise of our forefathers. Abba, Yahai, shining like spectrums. Universal cosmic sound wave objects. Move from stillness. Endless being, break the dream. Chanting Hashema Cree on Asoline. Born in Kabbalah trees, the garden of Eden. We Elohim, watch Adam and Eve. Manifest new better she. Lost tribes, as Israel feel pain. Come on, devil's lies on the rocks without shame. What? Who's to blame? But us, we trust one. And trust the devil and uplift your hard wall. Lost tribes, as Israel feel pain. Devil's lies on the rocks without shame. Who's to blame? But us, we trust one. And trust the devil and uplift your hard wall.
Praise the mighty Yah, praise the mighty Yah. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to our beautiful broadcast. Gather Yah's saints together. Gather Yah's saints together. Live here from the house of Israel of Philadelphia. And we have a special guest with us tonight. The mighty Hebrew, all the way from Tanzania, East Africa, joining us right here on Gather Yah Saints Together. Praise the mighty Yah. What's going on, my brother, the mighty Hebrew? Praise the mighty Yah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. First and foremost, I give all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness. I say unto the family, Shalom Aleichem. It's definitely an honor to be here with y'all and gathering y'all saints together. What's going on with you, man? How you
Praise
feeling?
the mighty Yah. Man, we doing beautiful. It's beautiful and an honor to have you on our program from the House of Israel, Philadelphia. You are a Philadelphia native, originally
Absolutely.
from Philadelphia, and that's beautiful. So it's awesome to have you on our program. We are the House of Israel, Philadelphia, new here in the city, opened up our congregation just recently. So it's a blessing to have a Philadelphia native here on our program. You're our first guest, and that's just a beautiful way to start things off. And you know, it's an honor that you was able to come on after speaking to you a few weeks ago and hearing how much you're doing out there in Africa and really around the world is amazing. And it's just what we're our show is about. We're trying to promote the gathering of Yah's saints. And how can we gather with Yah's saints if we're not reaching out and getting with everybody that's serving the Most High? And so, you know, you doing work out here, man. I mean, for people that know who you are, you don't need no introduction, but you're doing a lot of work out here. You're on a lot of people's broadcasts, teaching a lot, giving the people a lot of information, and you're on ground in Tanzania, and you're meeting with the brothers and sisters out there. And these are things that we need to hear about. We need to hear about what's going on with our people in these places. We just hear stories, but you're right there. So we want to hear what's going on. Just tell us about who you are for those that don't know, what you're doing, where you come from, how you came up in Israel.
Okay, hallelujah. Again, I give all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme intellect of our forefathers. My name is Tribal Minister Prince Charlandine Ben Ami Matazaryam Ben Yasharahla or Yisrael Senior. I come originally from out of a school known as Temple Kifraim out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That was founded by Kazari Dar Ben Yisrael. I was an understudy of the late, great Ben Ami Ben Yisrael, also known as Adonenu Rabbeinu. Also, my spiritual grandfather, the late Prince Asiel Ben Yisrael. I was an understudy of him for many, many years. He appointed me a prince back in 2016. I also was an understudy of the late Prince Dr. Shaliach Ben Yahuda. Also, Nasik Eliashuv Ben Yahuda, who is a part of the Nasakim over there in Dimona, Israel, Northeastern Africa right now. Also, I sat under scholars such as the late Levi Ben Yisrael, Zaquin Levi Ben Yisrael, the late Zaquin Ishkael Ben Yisrael, living legend Zaquin El Natan Ben Adam. I sat under Sar Zaquin Rabah Ben Yisrael, Professor Rudolph R. Yahuda Windsor's brother, Cole Windsor. I sat under Dr. Morey Yoel Ben Yisrael. So there were many, scholars that I had the privilege, to sit under. I've been tutelaged by, members from MOVE, such as, talking Chucky Africa. I got tutelage through Mel, constant writing with, brothers like Mumi Abu Jamal, Harry Bernardo, who founded the Black Star newspaper, understudied under Zaquin Adon Yehoshaphat Ben Israel, editor and founder of the Jerusalem Chronicle newspaper. As a matter of fact, I was a contributing columnist for the Jerusalem Chronicle newspaper for 5 years. I was an understudy of Nasik Eliashuv Ben Yahuda. I was a part of the School of the Prophets Institute in Dimona, Israel for 6.5 years. I have my MA in African Middle Eastern Studies, also my degree in Divine Hebrew Fundamentalism under Prince El Ram, who's also a part of the Nasakim from out of Atlanta, Georgia, which in turn helped me to develop what is known as the Mighty Hebrew University, which is an online accredited university at tmhu.org. I developed a system known as Hebrew Cosmogenesis and Hebrew Anthropogenesis, along with Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalism. But the ground over here.
Hold on, man. You said all that. We gotta Hold on, that's a lot. That's a
Yeah,
lot. I
that's
mean,
just a long
some
subject.
of the brothers you mentioned, I know. Some of them I don't know. But that's a
Okay,
lot of work behind you. That's a lot of
okay,
credential behind you, and that
okay,
deserves to be, you know, recognized and honored, and made sure that we
okay,
understand we dealing with the real deal. We dealing with a real teacher.
okay,
He's just not a, you know, somebody I
okay.
found off the street. Uh, you, he's dealing with the real deal, you know, and that's how that's how we like to roll. Deal with actual ministers, Morays, teachers, princes in Israel to give us that message and to let us know what we're dealing with. So I just wanted to make sure people don't, you know, brush by that. I know you try to make sure you got it all out, but
I mean,
it's but we just.
I didn't mention a lot of them. It's so many,
Oh,
you
I
know, Mother
understand. I
Louise,
understand. I
Gabby,
understand.
you know, got
I
to give a shout
understand.
out to the sister teachers too. You got Mother
Oh yeah.
Louise Deli, Ima Tamar, Ima Maya, Ima Naami, Ima Namia. It's you know, Ima Rofa, you know, Sister Yafa, the Rosso Vegetarian Cookbook.
Hmm.
You know, we definitely don't want to leave out some of the sister teachers because, you know, Israel's backbone is the sisters.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just, you know, straight with no chaser. So we have to always remember our elder sisters that came before us to nurture us when the father figures couldn't nurture us. But
That's right.
hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So yes, sir. Yeah, keep on telling us about the real deal. But I just wanted to make sure people understand we have a very wise scholar on the line with us right now. Praise Mighty Yah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, my objective of being out here for is for a few reasons, but the main reason is the fulfillment of Bereshit or Genesis chapter 15, verse 18. It talks about we will return to the great river Egypt, to the Euphrates. And when we start talking about the great river Egypt, now we talking about the blue and white Nile, the Pisan and the Gihon river that is mentioned in Bereshit chapter 2, starting at verse 13. When you look at the four river heads in Genesis chapter 2, 13 going down, it's the same river heads that you see in Genesis chapter 15, 18. And we know that the Nile River drops down in Lake Victoria in Uganda, and going to the Euphrates would be what you know as Iraq area, which is the so-called Middle East prior to the excavation of the Suez Canal, which was from 1859 to 1869. That was landlocked. It was a 10-year period that, so, you know, that gave the accolade of them getting help from the Egyptian government, those that wanted to control that piece of real estate, to separate that portion of northeastern Africa from the rest of the body of Africa. But what is called, or what is known as the so-called Middle East, is really, in fact, northeastern Africa. The term Middle East didn't come until during the time of World War II correspondence. Prior to that, there was no Middle East. If there is a Middle East, then where's the middle, north, south, east, and west? You know, questions
Exactly.
like this, you know, pop up. So
And
I seen that.
let me ask you
Yeah,
this real quick, because you
absolutely.
mentioned this in what I know what you're talking about, but some people might not understand because they have what today's media let us know the state of Israel, and that's where a lot of people believe
Mhm.
that's all of our land, the state of Israel,
That's just a portion.
and that's
That's just
just
a
a
portion
portion.
of our, yeah, that's just a
Exactly,
portion of our land. What we know
exactly,
as Israel is really consisted of Palestine, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. All that will be considered Israel. And even like, as I said, for our understanding, Israel is from Uganda all the way to Iraq.
and
You
that's the
know,
river of Egypt to the
absolutely.
river Euphrates, as it says in Genesis 15,
Okay,
18 through 21. And
came
we
on.
got to understand that our land is more massive than people have told us it is, because they don't want us to know that Africa belongs to us as well.
Absolutely. And it's funny that we're on this note because um, originally I was going to go to Ghana, West Africa, you know, and that's usually the direction most Israelites take, because we came from West Africa, even though we're not originally from West Africa. But, you know, we came that direction. But East Africa, I start really tapping mainly into Tanzania. A few reasons. One, because in 1974, at the Sixth Pan-African Conference that was in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, our spiritual, the late Prince Asiel ben Yisrael, and a delegate of Israelites from the Mona went there and was received openly and recognized as true Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationals at the Sixth Pan-African Conference. So now we have a seal of approval in that land. Also, Tanzania was one of the main areas that Adad the Danite of the 9th century CE spoke about Israelites from the Northern Kingdom being in this region. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to battlefield test my research, by the way, Hebrew anthropogenesis. I'll get into that in a second. But I also looked at the curses of Deuteronomy 28, along with the 400 years of us coming in August 1619 to August 2019. And I was working very close with a group known as the United Nation of Israel, where Ambassador Abraham, I was the national spokesman. As you see the flag that I'm representing, I'm the one that spearheaded the flag throughout the world. Whereas though I was, through my social media content and power, I was able to, people all over the world now rocking this flag. It was a lot of work that I did for the United Nation of Israel. Even to this day, even though I'm the former national spokesman, but I'm still recognized in the United Nation of Israel as a nobility in the United Nation of Israel. I'm still, you know, the flag is our flag, Israel. So, you know, and then I have my own school of thought known as Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. So I seen Ambassador Abraham, give a shout out to Ambassador Abraham Ben Levi Ben Yisrael. He was going the same direction I was going. You know, when we was talking and we seen that we had a lot in common, he was like, shoot, you want to work with me? I'm like, yeah, you want to work with me? Yeah. So it's just like, it was real easy for us, you know. And as I developed, I went the direction, he was taking his direction, but we still, you know, brothers in this walk and doing our thing. So I wanted to take it another step. And when I developed Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism, where I started doing this, I started traveling all throughout the United States to different camps, whether you're talking about DCB, Shema Yisrael, AOC, Lions of Israel, it didn't matter, ISUBK, wherever. I was going to all these different schools, and I was showing how it would be in our best interest to come together for nationalistic reasons. Just like Chinese people, you might have somebody in your family that's into Shintoism, if you're Chinese, Buddhism, Confucianism, but they know when it comes to national issues, they come together. So that was my objective. I had a lot of success overseas, even though I was in the United States. The impact that I was doing on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, it was so powerful that by the time I got to Africa, Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism was already here. You know, and it was like, okay, the mighty Hebrew, we know exactly who you are. So with that 1619 thing, and then the signing that the Donald Trump signed, that 400 year, it all made sense. It was all perfect. Now, yes, we do know that there were slaves that came before that, but they came on the islands. The difference from those that came in the United States and those from the islands, you had Israelites in the midst of other indigenous African tribes. That's why I don't believe that all the slaves that came over in the Western Hemisphere were Israelites, even though the bulk of us was Israel. Now, when you're talking about the United States coming in 1619, that was straight Israel.
Right.
And it was a Pacific group of Israelites that they were hunting down. When you look at the historical narrative, when you look at us coming, some say 1492, some say 1555, you have different dates of us going on them islands. On them islands, that's where they was breaking us. That was the breaking post. But with the so-called Negro in the United States, they didn't go through the breaking post. They just came straight from West Africa to the United States, 1619. Then you see the 2019, that's the 400 years. What did we see? We seen the George Floyd murder, which was the murder / resurrection of the nation of Israel. Yes, there was a literal murder that took place, but this was totally different, even more dynamic than the Rodney King situation in 1991. When you look at the George Floyd, this was international. You had people all over people literally was dying in protests all over the world based on this wickedness that was projected in the United States when it pertained to Yasharahla, the so-called Negro, right? Then right after the George Floyd, then you get COVID-19. Boom. Economically crippled and damn near collapsed the U.S. economy. You know what I'm saying?
And the
now
world
you
economy.
say that one more time, all right?
And the world economy as well.
And the world economy. It was, look, it affected the world. To this day, nations are still recuperating from this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now, what do we see now? Now you're starting to see this assault on Israel right now.
Yes.
Look at the situation with the Kanye West / or formerly Kanye West, now known as Ye, and Kyrie Irving. And we started to see this meltdown with Nick Cannon. And they had to immediately shut him down, you know what I'm saying, with him and Professor Griff. But now it resurfaced. And now we're seeing an assault on my brother. I got to give him a shout out because he's from my end, Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart told the people in Egypt that the original Egyptians was black. And they riverballed him and took any type of shows that he was doing in Egypt. They shut that down. Right. So we can see this
in
assault
Africa. in Africa. Telling black people they black.
Telling black people they black. Shutting down. So this say all that is to say that these were signs that I seen. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, and my wife was seeing the same thing. Shout out to my wife, Princess Itana. And, you know, she from Cali, LA. She grew up with Nipsey Hussle. And I'm from Philly. So we busting it up in our Mikwadash, in our engagement, things that we see of each other. And her thing was like, within 5 years of our marriage, we should be in Africa. I said, I agree with you. I said, I agree. I totally agree. And that's what happened. And we left and we're not coming back. Yeah, we'll come back and visit our families and stuff like that. But I'm glad that I came because now I'm on the ground. And when you come to Tanzania, you're going to see so much Hebraic expression. Right. Because
tell us a little bit about that. Because I remember when I spoke to you, you told me that there was just a lot of Hebrews, indigenous.
Oh man, it's
just there.
It's a lot of Hebrew Israelites in Africa.
Let us know what that's about.
It's a lot of Hebrew Israelites in Africa. So me doing the social anthropological work on the ground, I'm able to see and understand the development of Hebrew Israelites from the States and the Caribbean or the Caribbean islands versus the indigenous Israelites that amalgamated with other tribes. Let me give you a prime example. If you go to Kenya right now, they have a mountain known as Mount Kenya. The people there are called Kikule, and this specific tribe traced their lineage back to the Northern Kingdom tribe of Asher. And they've been there for centuries upon centuries there. As a matter of fact, they have a lawsuit in right now against Disney because the movie Wakanda and Black Panther is a historical. There was that image, Black Panther was a historical man back in 1910 of that Pacific tribe, and he would wear on the Black Panther clothes, long fingernails. It was a part of the ceremonial rite, so to say. And they were warned by this tribe not to make any more sequels, and they were supposed to have been told by Disney they wouldn't do it, and they did it anyway. So now they fight in a battle in court right now. So there is truth to the movie Wakanda or Black Panther. It was based on a true story about Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationals that live in Kenya from the tribe of Asher, that they stole that movie or stole the oral traditions.
Right.
And it was inside the movie Black Panther. You remember when the Black Panther went into the initiation, right? He had to drink that stuff, and he went into all this is a part of the rituals of these people. And they didn't want these rituals to be put out. And it's it's a whole big mess right now. You can tell by their oral tradition that they came directly by the way of the Assyrian captivity. Now, you have churches all throughout Africa, here in Tanzania, all throughout South Africa, West Africa. They're known as African Zionist churches. Now, these African Zionist churches start by a man by the name of C.P. Mason or Charles P. Mason from South Africa. Charles P. Mason was anointed or appointed in his position to find the tribes of Israel throughout Southern Africa by a man by the name of Prophet William S. Crawley.
Yes.
He was appointed in 1901, between 1901 to 1902 in South Philadelphia. Originally, Prophet William S. Crawley was born in 1847 in Maryland. He was in the Civil War. He was a Mason. And he had visions, that we were Israel. But a lot of people don't understand the Black Masonic order that was under Prince Hall. A lot of them within that Masonic order was taught that they were Israel. Now, this is just a historical fact. So I'm not debating if William S. Crawley received visions. I'm not saying he didn't, but I know his influences go back to the Masonic background that he came from out of also as well. And you even have previous Israelites such as Prophet Gabriel and his brother Prophet Martin, his brother Solomon. They came around 1775. In the 1800s, you had something called the Gabriel's Rebellion. Gabriel and his whole immediate family acknowledged themselves as Israelites. This is a documented fact. He used to wear his hair long, keep the Sabbath, things like that, and tell other slaves that they were Israelites, which in turn born the Gabriel's Rebellion. Even though it was unsuccessful, white folks died, and at the end he got hung and all that. Gabriel and his brother, they got hung. But getting back to William S. Crawley, he appointed C.P. Mason to go back to South Africa to hunt out tribes in Israel, which he did amongst the Zulus and others. So out of that, born a man by the name of Prophet Enoch. Prophet Enoch started a Torah-centered community known as the Israelites. In 1921, they had what is known as the Barnhart Massacre, which killed 163 Israelites when they didn't want to leave from the compound. At the time, the general of South Africa was General Smuts, and where he did was he came down to where they were at with an army, and just they massacred like 163 Israelites, men, women, and children. And to this day, that's known as the Barnhart Massacre. And there's still to this day communities that come from out of that lawn. So I just want to let you know, like William S. Crawley, even though he may not have seen it, he set a major impact in Africa, which caused a lot of the Israelites in Africa to awaken. So you have Israelites here on the ground that were quote unquote indigenous because they may have been a part of the Assyrian set of the northern kingdom or the Babylonian southern kingdom of Judah. But you see an isolation with them, like because of the fear of, at times even being expected as being an Israelite. They still have that fear factor of death, like you see in Timbuktu right now. We just found over 7,000 books in Hebrew. This is recently, and they have over 1,000 Israelites, right? In Timbuktu, it's a family of them. Even though they converted to Islam, right? They still know who they are, and that came about because if you understand Dark Age West Africa, you had a man by the name of Askisa Muhammad who wanted the annihilation of the Israelites in West Africa. So a lot of them converted to Islam for geopolitical reasons. So now all this information is coming out now. Like you're starting to see families rise up in West Africa who has been in secret, keeping an identity, and now it's coming to surface like, look, we the children of Israel. You know what I mean? Then you got southern Nigeria, a group known as the Strange People. The Rom Korom people. They have an Aramaic Hebrew texts in parts, so nothing can change. They have no connection with what you will call post-exilic Judaism, so to say. So they don't do like Hanukkah and stuff. Strictly what is outlined in Wayikra or in Leviticus, the 3rd chapter. All the set-apart festivals, that's what they do. You can see the amalgamation of, the diffusionism, so to say, of culture. So you see the indigenous Israelites that may not never left, but still was scattered in Africa. There you see the awakening of Israelites in Africa by the way of connections with the United States from Israelites from Africa and helping that awakening. And then you see a third manifestation, which is Judaism, through the influence of the European Jews that come into Africa in search of the tribes of Israel and convert them to Judaism. Because you got to remember, even in the Talmud, it speaks about the northern kingdom of Israel going into Africa, and they have things in the Midrash and different things like that clearly expresses Israelites being in Africa. And a lot of these Jewish organizations have money. So, excuse me, Silicon. So to control the narrative, they have to play the two fundamental factors of sovereignty: national jurisdiction and ecclesiastical jurisdiction. National jurisdiction is by the way of who controls the tribe of Judah. And then the ecclesiastical jurisdiction is by the way of who controls the tribe of Levi. So this is why the Jews have always placed themselves in that area. Right now, you have many Jewish organizations who would clearly admit, like, yes, these African tribes are Israelites, but they're identifying with the Northern Kingdom.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And then when you look at the history of the Northern Kingdom, then you understand why they're shooting that premise. But to make a long story short, so what they do is they go into these rural areas and they might see, like, for instance, Beta Israel, or the House of Israel, falsely called the Falasha, were practicing the Hebrew culture for centuries. And what happened when the YAH'S came in, they converted them to Judaism. So now you have this argument within the Black conscious community that y'all converts to Judaism, not understanding that there are three-dimensional elements of diffusionism with this thought. The first is the Israelite tribes from the Northern and Southern Kingdom that was scattered throughout Africa that didn't get transported either in the East African slave trade or the West African slave trade. So, but they were still in the continent, still upholding their customs as Israelites, but also amalgamating with the surrounding tribes around them. Then you have the second wave of Israelites from Africa that was influenced by Israelites from the United States to help to awaken the tribes that were around them, that they had an idea that they were Israel through their cultural practices, but necessarily not knowing directly they was Israel, but having that whisper, like just like us. And then that third wave of Israelites already being there, but being infiltrated through Judaism by European Jews coming in and converting already Israelites to Judaism, which has caused a major confusion. Now, when you're on the ground, you can see this. And then you also have another wave too of Israelites that don't know they're Israelites at all, but literally follow Israelite customs. For instance, the Chaga, they circumcise on the 8th day. And you will hear people arguing, well, circumcision come from Egypt, even though it don't. We have archaeological proof that circumcision existed before Egypt was even an empire or even known. That's a different story, a different topic. But the premise that I'm looking for is not circumcision, but the intent behind it. When you look at Kemet, they only circumcise the males if they were initiated within their mystery school systems of Kemet. Verse, we circumcise all our children on the 8th day. And when you deal with something called Hebrew Gematria, when you look at Hebrew Gematria, when you look at the name of the creator's name, Yahweh or Yahweh, you will see that the number comes up to 26. Our letters is also our numbers. 2 plus 6 equals 8. So when you're talking about the covenant of the Most High, the circumcision covenant is imprinted by the way of the creator's name or number. 8 is symbolic to infinity, which is the everlasting covenant that the creator has on earth between us and him. That's the difference. All our male sons were circumcised on the 8th day. That is very unique. That is very unique. When you look at when it comes to when a woman's nida is on or her state of flowers is on, they automatically separate out here in Tanzania. They don't cook for 7 days. They don't, if you have workers whose nida is on, they like that time you gotta like fend for your own home. You know what I'm saying? Meaning like cook and clean and all that, because your workers, if they women, if they need out on, they stay home. You know what I'm saying? So they don't quote unquote pollute your home and have you unclean. This is things that they know. Also, they understand the Shabbat. Like they call it Shabbata over here. and Kiswahili. Then they also understand the Suko. They do yearly the Suko. And it may not be called Suko, but you can clearly see, if you have that anthropological eye, you can see the Hebrew culture fused with many other cultures. You know what I mean? That's around them.
So what we're hearing from you, my brother, Mighty Hebrew, in Tanzania, is that the Israelite culture is just rampant throughout Eastern and Southern Africa from your experience and your studies, which means that our people are there because they're not doing it based off of nothing. And our people are
they even look
East
like
Africa. Right.
They look, you come to Tanzania right now, because 78%, you have 125 tribes in Tanzania. And I've been to other parts of Africa, but I'm only speaking Tanzania right now because that's where I'm at. There's over 125 tribes. 79.5% are Shemitic. If they don't speak, you would just be thinking, what are all these African Americans doing over here? You got to remember the Bantu expansion was from East Africa to West Africa. So when the Bantu expansion for us is what you will call the Assyrian and Babylonian captivity. So when these different invaders came, a lot of us was running into East Africa, West Africa. You have, Bantu speaking tribes out here. When you look at the phenol structure of our people in West Africa and the phenol structure of the Bantu speaking tribes in East Africa, we look exactly alike. Exactly. You'll just be like, oh, these is I know it's all these African Americans over here.
Right.
Until they start speaking Swahili, then you're like, oh, snap. Like if I bring a bunch of them right now and sit them in Harlem, and I just throw on the way we dress, and they just sit there, nobody would be like they different.
Tell the difference, right?
You can tell the difference from the Bantu speaking tribes versus like the Nordic tribes and the different tribes that's around them that's not of Bantu descent, so to say, even though the word Bantu is not what we really called ourselves. But I'm just, for the sake of argument, that's what they're being classified under Western academia. So these Bantu speaking tribes, that's us. We would be considered as African Americans, so-called African Americans, of the Bantu, family, so to say. You know what I'm saying?
Let me read this scripture real quickly. In 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, and I'm reading it because it points out location. And in 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, the 65th verse, it says, and at that time, Shlomo held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation from the entering in of Hamath unto the river of Egypt, before Yah our Elohim, 7 days and 7 days, even 14 days. So it mentions that when Solomon had this feast, it was from the entering of Hamath unto the river of Egypt. From your understanding, where is that?
That's all throughout. The feast spread it all the way to what we know as Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, all that. Even when you start talking about Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iran, all that whole, from the Great River Egypt to the Euphrates, all that Israelites was scattered. Because you got to look at it like, look at that little itty bitty piece of real estate. Like all of us can't fit. Like that's foolishness. You know what I mean? To think that, remember, the Most High told Abraham to look up at the stars in the Shemaim and the Shemayim in the heavens. Can he number? No, you can't. So we gotta be able to spread more than just that piece of real estate.
Right.
But I'm telling you, there is, in fact, and I'm telling y'all, a great awakening in Africa. A great awakening. I mean, Israelites, they everywhere. They everywhere you go. We in Gambia, we in Ghana, we in Nigeria, we in Togo, we in Mali, we in Tanzania, we're in Kenya, we're in Uganda, we're in Zimbabwe, we deep in the Congo, we heavily deep in South Africa. There's Israelite schools and community all over South Africa. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere. We're in Damona, we're in Talarad, we're in Mispay Mon, everywhere.
So since you mentioned that we're all over Africa, and it's sad that even still today at this time, that when you talk about Africa to our brothers and sisters, a lot of people will respond and say, yeah, you know, they don't like us in Africa. Africans don't like us. And not only will they say that Africans don't like us, our people, especially over here in the States, have a negative perspective about people in Africa. Like there's something beneath us or dirty or lower status than us. But since we are understanding that, of course, even Africa is not the name of that landmass. We know that's a European name. But nevertheless, even our people over there, what is your suggestion? What do you see? What has worked for you that we're able to connect with our brothers and sisters worldwide, especially in Africa?
That's a good question. Now, I'm gonna crystallize the question now is by asking myself, is there truth to that? The answer is yes. And let me tell you why. Just as we've been thoroughly brainwashed in the United States, our brothers and sisters in Africa have been thoroughly brainwashed. Now, I'm not saying this is the bulk of people in Africa. But I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't some people, let me take that back, that look at us that way, but a lot do. And the reason why is this perception of what's being shown on TV. Now, one thing we have to understand is a lot of nations in Africa just start tuning in to the Black experience within the beginning of the millennium, around the late 90s, so to say. They don't have a clue, and this is for real, the dynamics of the Black American experience. They don't. They remember Africa as a continent with different countries in it. So wherever you at depends on what you know.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because you had some societies in Africa that don't even want you to touch anything American. So you know how in the United States they gave this Eurocentric image of beauty and prestige through media. I don't know how old you are, but you up there, right? You in your 40s.
Yes, sir.
So you remember they would have TV shows like Different Strokes, Webster, Punky. It was always this Eurocentric image of fame and glory. And you remember we had the Lifestyle on Rich and Famous. Well, they do the same thing in Africa, but what they do is they use the East Indians. What they do is that whole Bollywood. This is the brainwashing images that they get over here through the Bollywood and all the East Indian entertainers, they won't use no dark-skinned Black East Indians. They all be quote-unquote white East Indians. And they thoroughly brainwash these people. And what they do now is, because people are access to social media, they put these, first of all, it's only, but they can censor what comes in if you don't have the right things to see. But what they do now is project this image of Black people with all this money, and the women is thick and beautiful, but they raunchy, they disrespectful. So you're starting to see this nigger mentality creep up in Africa.
Right.
Because I'm gonna let you know, you come to Tanzania, they're not gonna be like Black American. They're gonna even call you two things. If they don't know you, they're gonna call you a Mzungu, which is white man. Even though originally Mzungu only identified the so-called white man. But if you speak English, they call you Mzungu, or they're gonna call you a nigger. They're gonna be like, oh, what's up, my nigga? But they don't mean no harm.
Right.
And they mind, because of the brainwashing, they think it's cool. Yeah, what's up, my nigga? I'm a nigga too.
Right.
So in their mind, you a nigga, they a nigga. And it's the newer generation that you're seeing. The older generation look at Black Americans as, we're lazy, we get everything. And there is like a form of jealousy, you know, because you'll hear brothers and sisters that don't know what's going on. We even felt it. The scamming, when we came, we got scammed. You know what I'm saying? We opened up a business, Dada's Bar and Grill. It was things that transpired with that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas though a lot of money we lost because we didn't understand the dynamics of street vendor and business as it pertained to foreigners versus locals. So there's a lot of cutthroat if you don't know what you're doing. But to say all that and the colonization, because remember, Tanzania just won their independence in 1961. So there was a thorough form of colonialism over here. And you can see it to this day. But now the younger generation of Tanzanians is like Black Americans. They are people. You know what I mean? So you're starting to slowly see the fade in the Black when it comes to the old ways of how their parents looked at Black Americans versus this newer generation. It can be good or bad because they want to be us, but at the same time, they don't want to be us. So it's like a catch-22. Just like we have this stereotype in America about them, they have a stereotype about us too. And what really hurt us is historically you didn't see any Africans come to save us.
Right.
Second, the rising of certain thoughts within the one West Israelite persuasion that all people in Africa are Hamites. That's not true.
Right.
When the One West camps put that out there, it caused a lot of confusion. And then they amalgamated within the tribes haplogroups or types or other nations, so to say, that's not us. Like, I don't acknowledge that the Native American Indians or the Hispanics are Israelites. I don't acknowledge that. Now, I acknowledge that there are Israelites in the midst of them.
Right.
I what you would call Negro only. Now, there are Israelites in the midst of them, yes. But when you start talking about chronology, phenostructure, haplogroups, haplotype D, and there, when you look at most Native Americans in the United States, they are of Mongolian descent.
Right.
Then when you start studying up on like the Southwest American natives, now you start talking about your Hawaiians and your Samoans. Now you're talking about they're of Australian descent.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Aboriginals and you have the Indigenous. The Aboriginals are what scientists will call O haplogroups or O haplotypes that are considered Australoid.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about people like Jimmy Fly, Snooker, or The Rock, mother side of the family, because you know The Rock's father is an African American.
Right.
His mother and them, they Samoan.
Right.
The Samoans go back to Australia. They would be considered your Aboriginal tribes. Now, when you start talking about your Mongols, now you're talking about your Cherokees, your Chippewas, your Blackfoots, stuff like that. They're of Mongol descent. But in the midst, the Negro, the so-called Negro element was there. The Negro element been there since King Solomon created his naval fleet with hiring King of Tyre, along with, you know, we acknowledge Akhenaten. You see this triple alliance when you go into the Los Lonis, not the Los Lonis inscription, the Davenport Stelas and the Long Island inscription. You see the triple alliance languages. And speaking of the Los Lonis inscription, which is a true inscription of the 10 Commandments that you can find in Hidden Mountain in Los Lonis, New Mexico. But that doesn't prove that the Native Americans are Israelites. What it proves is that Israelites had colonies. That's it. That's all it's expressing, that the Israelites had colonies. And this is why they're finding Hebrew artifacts in the Americas.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's where I stand at when it comes to that. So the One West camps, the original universal practical knowledge, played a major role in separating the mind of Israelites from Africa. You see what I'm saying? And then then they also teach that Israel isn't a part of Africa. Right. So when you have this combination, and then you got these mamzers in your congregation, it becomes very hard. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not saying that all Hispanics aren't Israel, all natives aren't Israel. There is Israel in the mix, but the bulk of them are not. Like the bulk of African Americans are in fact Israel, versus them, the bulk of them are not. So this is not to disrespect anybody, seek the face of the Creator, but this is to reveal the truth that the so-called Negro, a Pacific black man, the so-called Negro in the diaspora, we're Israel. And that's just that.
Hallelujah. Beautiful. Well, just, you know, we're coming at the top of the hour, and just to reintroduce and remind and recap with everyone that might have joined in after we started, we have the Mighty Hebrew on our show today, Gather Y'all Saints Together. We were supposed to be on yesterday, but we had to move it up till today, which is okay, and we're here. And he's telling us about his experience being over in Tanzania, what he's learned is what he called social, what'd you call it? Social
anthropology, yes.
Social anthropology. He said
or better, Hebrew anthropogenesis. I like
Hebrew anthropogenesis. And we're going to let you explain a little bit about that in our next hour, but he's been letting us know what it's like on the ground there in East Africa, his experiences, being able to see Israelites for himself with his own eyes that have been in East Africa for many, many centuries from our captivities, the Assyrian captivity, the Babylonian captivity, and how we're still in these areas. And we've also touched on the fact that the scriptures tell our borders are from the river of Egypt unto that great river, the river Euphrates. And for everyone that needs to know, that is a much larger land than what we are used to being told Israel is today. As a matter of fact, the state of Israel is just a portion of our land. and our people's land is from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, as it states in Genesis, the 15th chapter, verse 18 through 21. And as we just read, even in 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, that our land is way more expansive than we might have thought. To put us in that perspective, that Africa is part of our land and we are part of that place, and that we should consider our people in these places when it comes to gathering ourselves together and gathering Yah's saints together. And I'm on with one of Yah's saints, the mighty Hebrew. And what you've given us this first hour has been just a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure people are going to have to rewind, play it back, and understand everything that has been spoken, because you're really giving us a class. This is just a seminar of historical record and just understanding what another perspective of the world looks like. And we need to bring that to our people. We have to get out of our bubbles thinking that the world revolves around our tiny locations, our cities, our communities, our congregations, that we are a nation of people. So we have the mighty Hebrew on. He is also an artist. He's a musical artist, a hip hop artist. And when we came on the line, we came on with one of his songs from his album. Tell him the name of that album.
Yeah, that was off the album Journey to the Dark. That's on the album Journey to the Dark Side of the Moon. The song was called Lost Tribes that you was playing.
Lost Tribes. And so I want to play another song from the mighty Hebrew and then get into this next hour. And this song is called, what was the name of that song, brother? I was bumping it earlier.
Nine Ether Being.
The 9 Ether Beings. So for all you Wu-Tang heads, all you underground hip hop heads, all y'all that are really into just breaking down hip hop music in science and in just verbiage of, you know, mystical knowledge, you need to listen to this song.
Also give a shout out to DJ Los. He produced this. DJ Los, he's a famous world-renowned producer. He produced for Slaughterhouse, D12, went on tour with Eminem, different cats like that from out of Detroit. Also give a shout out to Chief Kantar, producer over here in Tanzania, and Lord Melchizedek from out of Tacoma, Washington. Them three producers produced my first album, My Mental Was Never Destroyed, and this new album, Journey to the Dark Side of the Moon.
Praise Yah. So we're going to play this song, and then we're going to get back with the mighty Hebrew so he give us another seminar of knowledge as he's been giving us. Praise Yah.
Hallelujah.
I'm a G.O.D. It's the Elohim. I be the 9, eat the bean of the 4D, the 4D, I'm a Elohim. I be the 9, eat the bean of the 4D, the 4D, I'm a G.O.D. It's the Elohim, Ben Ami, Misraim, universal thought, rock at 9, eat the bean. Who be the one, rock the spot non-stop? I, scientific God, the human juggernaut, 311 trillion, 40 billion, infinite children, time travel down tree of lives, etheric molecules that were cubed like Rubik's 6-point born Judah, macabre light be dark blue, my new division, Ha'adam from Azulik, pure real form existence, thought the distance, peak wisdom we build it, less than zero, our enemies feel pain, goodbye hero. Black rain descent to Tamana through earth chain. Elohim reign and Lord to reign. Feel the essences of Shem's fame. We be noble Aryans next to our names like you Ali. Ben Ami, how I be. Vision I see be me. Beyond 3D. Eyes above hills. A shadow to become. Hayah. Daniel son root to Yahweh. Kakma. Golden one focus. Unfold omen. I be the 9, eat the bean of the 4D, the 4D, I'm a Elohim. I be the 9, eat the bean of the 4D, the 4D, I'm a G-O-D. It's the Elohim, Ben Ami, Mizraim. Universal thought, rock and I eat the bean. Who be the one, rock the spot non-stop? I, scientific God, the human juggernaut. Toro reigns supreme, Azulitic world, born imagery from the all I see. The breath implodes within the cosmic stomach. That's panoramic. 613 commandments, God, Ha-Adam, Chakma standing. Chanting, making war cloud sounds of cosmic form and atoms to shatter the sound. Barrier the patterns, explode the matter. Born Saturn, Trey and Venus chain. Yisrael rain with lightning and thunder. We plunder from Babylon to North Philly jungle. Small wonder crumble in the west. Now humble from Yah's judgment. The vultures of others now coming clashing in the multiverses as poetic verses in full mental. It's never destroyed. The art of noise, basement music, diffuse fusion. We illuminate truth through the tribe of Judah. I be the 9, eat the bean of the 4D, the 4D. I'm a Elohim. I be the 9, eat the bean of the 4D, the 4D. I'm a G-O-D. It's the Elohim, Ben Ami, Mizraim. Universal thought, rock and I eat the bean. Who be the one, rock the spot non-stop? I, scientific God, the human juggernaut.
Yes.
Praise Yah. Praise mighty Yah. Back with you all here on Gather Yah Saints together with our special broadcast with our special guest. I don't want to mess up your name. Prince Shah
Landine Ben Ami Matazaryam Ben Yasharahla Senior.
Praise
and modern Hebrew would be Prince Shah Landine Ben Ami Mitzrayim Ben Yisrael.
All right. So there you have it. I don't want to mess it up. Make sure I say it right. That's why I keep on saying the mighty Hebrew. I ain't gonna mess that one up.
Right. And I know people might ask, so y'all know I have alopecia. So that's why I don't have no.
Right, no beard, no problem.
Yeah, because I have no eyebrows and that because I have alopecia.
Right, I got you. Because
you it make me look like Benjamin Button though.
They stay young. That's right. That's right. That's right. But we've been with our brother, the mighty Hebrew, here on Gather Yah Saints Together. And the mighty Hebrew is a scholar, world renowned, and he's in Tanzania, East Africa. And you mentioned, my brother, that you have a school. Tell us about the name of your school and tell us about that.
We're thinking on the same note. I have a school, accredited online university. Give a shout out to Pastor John Tatum, aka also known as Kohen Yochanan Ben Israel, out in Chicago, Illinois, to help me get the school officially accredited. It's known as the Mighty Hebrew University. Co-founder Dr. Morey Yoel Ben Israel. He helped me, build my platform to the point I was able to take it to another level. He had some other ventures that he was doing within his life, and he wanted to do some things, but I kept it going. And now it's officially accredited. Each certificate, you get 3 credits. You go inside the Mighty Hebrew University, you see your syllabus, you have your marginals. You can't go to the next marginal until you finish the first one. It's dope. It's dope. Right now at the Mighty Hebrew University, we might have 36 students right now, active students. They fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
I developed a system known as Hebrew cosmogenesis and Hebrew anthropogenesis, and I'm gonna explain that. The reason why I developed these systems is because I seen a death blow taking place within the Hebrew Israelite community by the Black conscious Afrocentric community. And one of their objectives was to argue that there was no historical validity behind the existence of Israel, and that the people inside the Bible were fictitious characters. We didn't have no science, we didn't have nothing. So Hebrew cosmogenesis is the breakdown and study of cosmology and cosmology by using the Yuga cycles from out of the Indus Valley to help to understand the better sheet. Many of us inside the Hebrew Israelite culture, because of religious reasons, have been taught that our history is only 6,000 years old. I beg to differ. I see our history is 311 trillion, 40 billion years old. When you look at each day in the Hebrew, it uses the Hebrew word yom. Classical Hebrew, Western, Hellenistic understanding, it will be a literal day, 24 hours. But from the Eastern perspective, we understand that Hebrew language is really based on function. So if you look at the Hebrew word yom, there's 3 letters there. You have a yod, you have a woe, and you have a meme. And in the Sinaitic pictorial Hebrew that it was originally scribed in, the yod is symbolic to an outstretched arm. When you look at the wa, it's a nail. And then if you look at the meme, it's water waves. So when you put this word together, yom or yomom, you have that which containeth life. So instead of first day, second day, it'd be first containment of life, second containment of life, third containment of life, etc., etc. Till you get to the 7th day or 7th containment of life. Each of these is defined the root epic. The first is dealing with the etheric epic, or when we was in a state of Elohim. And then you have the second and the theosophical. If you talk to theosophists, they're called that the Polarian root race or the Polarian root epic. Then you have the Hyperborean root epic, what we call the Elohim molecule root epic. Now our bodies are solidifying more or being more coursed into a watery element. And each day we start to course ourselves more and more until we get into the physical form. So the first day, 311 trillion, 40 billion BCE. The last day is 100,000 years. Another topic, I get on that when I come back again and go into in-depthness of this understanding. Now, one might say, well, it's not literally 7 days. We're multi-dimensional people. So by us being multi-dimensional, one can look at it as 7 days, because remember, the 14th verse of Bereshit 1 tells us that we will also use these things as signs and seasons. So we can understand Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. So there is no contradiction when you're multi-dimensional. You see what I'm saying? We as original people always looked at things by the way of layers, so to say. So Hebrew anthropogenesis is the explanation or the spiritual expression of our culture in physical form. So now we talk about dress, we talk about language, food, habits, culture, pottery, art, folklore. All that's consisted of Hebrew anthropogenesis. So you have the Hebrew cosmogenesis, which is the cosmological understanding of the Bereshit, and the growth and development of our cosmological understanding of the worlds around us. And then the Hebrew anthropogenesis is the endless culture emanation, our heritage emanating from the subjective realm into the objective realm, or what we will call in Hebrew thought the azuletic world of existence and pure will, into a state of the malchut, or as Kabbalists would say, from the Keter to the malchut. So now you're seeing from the unseen to the seen. So I had to first get a name, develop a system, And now I'm battlefield testing the system by being on the ground and dealing with how I describe these things. And I'm using the measurement of description when it comes to my research. And my first book I wrote is called Our True History of the Diaspora and Our Freedom. That came out in 2017. Now I'm working on my new book, 311 trillion, 40 billion BCE to now. And I can see the difference. My first book was more of this scholar said thus, that scholar said this scholar said that. Versus this is, well, through my research on the ground where I have seen, you see the difference? You see what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with footwork research, it supersedes, and it's way better than this scholar said thus. No, what did the people say?
Right.
Out of their mouths. You'll see me on Facebook doing interviews with different tribes throughout Africa, and you'll see them speaking about their oral traditions of being Israel. Recently, my old page got took down. Facebook claimed anti-Semitism. It seems like every time I get up to over 5,000 people, they shut me down for something minute, like me doing the interview with Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. I didn't say anything anti-Semitic, but they used that as a premise to shut it down. And the thing with Facebook, if you don't have these things saved, you can lose everything.
Right.
So there was some footage that I lost. You know, most of the footage I didn't lose, but like 30% of the footage I lost of different tribes and chiefs that I interviewed. But I'm glad that a lot of like the YouTubers, they would come on Facebook, grab my interviews and research and post it on YouTube.
Right.
So even though it might not be on Facebook, it's still on YouTube. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So give a shout out to people like FOP Israelites for doing that. Lions Den JJ 7000, along with Queen Karima, you know, also the Torah Knights, to Judah Natural, and there's many Global Media Inc. Give a shout out to Genesis 49ers, also Maccabees TV. So you have Israelites out there that's, you know, documenting and archiving this information. Also give a shout out to True Flicks Network with Laura Mikael and Zion Lex TV.
Praise Yah. So your university is called the Mighty Hebrew University, correct?
Yep. You can go to tmhu.org.
tmhu.org.
Yup. And it'll pop up. If you look it up now, tmhu.org. You see it?
I'm making sure I put it in this banner here. Yeah. All right. You got it. tmhu.org.
Yep.
That's beautiful, because we need people that, you know, not only want to spread knowledge, but actually in an organized manner. So and you said the university's accredited. What is it accredited? How is it accredited? What type of
it's under biblical theology. The way we got it accredited is, if I would have just came with my thesis of Hebrew cosmogenesis, Hebrew anthropogenesis, it wouldn't have been able to get accredited. So what we did was we got it accredited under theology. So when you first come on if you go, matter of fact, if you go on right now, because you can show the people, if you go on there right now, and if you go, you'll see homepage, but go to next to homepage so you can see the accreditation. And it'll tell you where it's accredited at. You can go online, look up to make sure it's accredited. All my stuff is official. So
where
I said,
do I see the accreditation?
Okay, can you, because I didn't know if you was going to pull it up. Matter of fact, let me go on my phone real quick and follow you. That's what I'll do. And then you can show The
I got it
people.
right here.
You see the accreditation?
Yeah, you see if you can see the.
Yeah. Okay, you there. So where it says about, where it's hit about. Uh-huh. Yeah. Now scroll down. Keep scrolling down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you almost there. Keep scrolling. That's the staff team. Scroll. There it is right there. Boom. So, and if you hit that, you'll see that it's accredited Association of Bible Schools of Theological Institutions.
Yeah.
And you look that up and you'll see the Mighty Hebrew University pop up. So say if you get like, you pass one course, each certificate is 3 credits. So let's say if you decide to go to Temple University, you could take them credits from the Mighty Hebrew University and take them to a college.
Praise Yah. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
This is the very first and only Hebrew Israelite school that is officially accredited.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So there it is. That's where we got our own brother with a university. So if you want, and you can study all type of Hebrew wisdom in this university, the Mighty Hebrew University.
And matter of fact, hit academics real fast for the people so they can see the courses that they can take thus far. It should say academics, y'all.
We
So
have
as
Hebrew
you
cosmogenesis. All right. Yeah, see that. Hebrew anthropogenesis. Hebrew language. Moorish world history. Naturopathic and divine. What's that one?
natural path. Oh yeah, hermeneutic studies, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Kabbalistic studies. Ancient archaic symbolism. Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism, which is the next thing I wanted you to talk about. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
just to people know,
And
we
if
got,
you, matter of fact, show one more thing if you can. What does it say after emissions? Yeah, hit emissions. Hit emissions. Now go all the way down. As far as you can go. Right there. You passed it. Go back up. Keep going a little bit more. Right there. So that right there is the emissions form. So if you want to enroll in the Mighty Hebrew University, you'll fill that out. After you fill that out and go through whatever finances, however, whatever your finances is, because we work with you, you'll get an email from emissions. And that email, you get a pass, a code, and you use that code, and then you get right inside the university.
Cool.
See, this right here is for people that want to come to the Mighty Hebrew University, but you won't be able to go to none of the courses until you're enrolled.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's beautiful, man. You got a university and you're doing real work. I love that. I might have to be in this school. I might have to go back to school.
Oh man, you going, it's gonna blow your mind, bro. The research is dynamic. It's dynamic. I'm proud to say, the Most High has given me an eye to see certain things, and I'm just, grateful that I can serve the people.
Praise the Mighty Yah. So yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Hebrew Israelite, what'd you call it? Sovereign nationalism. Because that's what we're about. We're about being able to gather ourselves together. That's what it says in the book of Zephaniah, the 2nd chapter. Gather yourselves together, O nation, not desired. And if we're going to be a nation, it's not saying that we're not a nation. We just not desired. And we need to gather ourselves together. So just let us know your perspective, your outlook on what is Hebrew sovereign nationalism as you teach it, so we can understand, because I don't want the people to think that we can't come together because of scriptural differences, because we know there's all kind of differences with how we teach and believe. And I don't know everything you teach, but I'm sure we got differences. I'm sure it is. Just you telling me to teach people that taught you, I know that we have certain differences from the people that taught me. But we can't let those particular differences stop us from gathering together and being a nation and talking about it, because the only way we come together as a nation is if we iron out those differences. What are the differences, and how can we not have them anymore? So we got to deal with them. We got to understand. And that's why I don't want people thinking I'm promoting or not promoting or whatever. I just want our people to understand there's a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge. The scriptures say the reason that we're destroyed is for lack of knowledge. So we can't just ignore somebody's knowledge just because it doesn't sound like what we've learned. We have to know about it before we can answer it. Proverbs let us know, he who answers a matter before he heareth the whole thing is folly. So we need to hear the matters. We need to hear what's going on. And once we can make an educated, wise decision on what is out there and how we can come together. So I just want people to understand that, the way we gather ourselves together is by hearing the truth about our perspectives of life and being able to see where we can meet. I'm sure out there in Tanzania and the various other places you've gone in Africa, you've seen people do things that are different than what you might teach or believe. But yet you're still connecting with those people because you know that there are people and there's a story to tell there, and there's a way that we can all see the truth of the Most High. So just let us know what the Hebrew sovereign nationalism is.
Okay. And may the late Morey Elisha ben Yisrael rest in completeness. Great dynamic. You had a great dynamic teacher, brother. You know what I'm saying? Let me express briefly Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. Naturally, we acknowledge ourselves as Hebrew from our research because we go back to ancient Eber, a man by the name of Eber. And even before Eber in the Indus Valley, it was a group of Hebrews known as the Yadavas that we go back to. We're Israelites naturally because Yaakov, his name was changed to Yisrael, which in turn produced the children of Yisrael, or the Hebrew Israelites. We're sovereign because the body politic would be the nation of Israel that would be under the breastplate of the Constitution known as Torah. What I've done is, one of the things I did was I studied sovereignty. You heard of UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. We all heard of that. And, studying the redemption manual, cracking the code. And I'm like, damn, if this stuff worked, why ain't nobody getting out of jail? You know what I'm saying? And different stuff like that. So it made me take a step back and look at the Torah for what it was.
Right.
It was a sovereign constitutional document for a free people.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at all these different camps and congregations, and all of them have been affected, including the school I come out of, and your school, all of us. We have been affected somehow. Okay. You can't. Can you hear me? You're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. You see? Unmute yourself. Because it's showing me I can see you on mute. You got to hit. It's fine. You got to hit your mute button. Because if I press, as you can see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yup, you was on mute.
I'm having a sound.
Are you good now? You good?
Sound issue.
You can hear me though, right? Can you hear me?
Let me see.
Can you hear me?
Give me a moment.
Okay. Can you hear me? Now you're on mute again. There you go. All right, you
All right,
just
seems maybe
there you go.
I can't hear you, but everybody else can hear you. So go ahead.
Okay. So my thing was I was looking at all the schools and all
Sorry about
and
that.
all the schools were having problems based on doctrinal differences. And then I start looking at all the different nations, and they have their differences, but they know how to come together nationally. So what I did was I stayed away from the doctrinal differences and looked at strictly what was in common. Common goals, like here's a common goal. You're married, you have a wife, you have children, you gotta work, eat, live, etc. Same with me. I'm just showing certain things that are knowable as Hebrew Israelite Sovereign nationals. So what I did was use the Torah as a premise of national identity and connect it. I didn't care if you was Torah only, Messianic, whatever, because I know my position. I'm Torah centered, 100%. I'm not Messianic. But I noticed that there was like somewhat of a shun when you see most times a Torah only Israelite. And I noticed that happened to me a lot when I would go to non-Torah only. So I had to come up with something that will help to unite us all, no matter what camp community that you are part of. So it didn't matter if you was Messianic, Torah only, Talmudic, mystical. We have commonalities that connects us as Hebrew Israelite Sovereign nationals. So that was the driving force. You know what I'm saying? No matter what you acknowledge, because we all have become infected with the Euro Gentile menticide. We've all been affected. You know what I'm saying? And what happens a lot of times with these camps and congregations, they feel as though for some reason the Creator had inspired them to be above all other camps, and they have the truth verse understanding that the truth don't come from any camp. The truth only resonates and comes through you, but the truth strictly goes back to the one and only Yahweh. So that's what I focused on, or I'm focusing on, our national connections. And as we build nationally, socially, the doctrinal differences will correct itself as we're building. See, one thing Israel has to get out of is blowing out their national business on social media, because when we do that, it causes our nation to be weak and other people to use what we put out there to cause us to be crippled in front of the masses of people. So my objective was to bring back integrity, willfulness, courage, honor, respect, dignity, pride, self-determination, etc., within the structure of Hebrew Israelite Sovereign nationalism. Hebrew Israelite Sovereign nationalism causes men to be men and women to be women. And Hebrew Israelite Sovereign nationalists believe that men and women are equal, but equality does not mean sameness. Our roles are different, our perspectives are different, but the responsibility is shared. It is time now to hold off on the doctrinal differences, deal with national behavior and understand it. And as we're building nationally, we will socially correct the doctrinal differences as we go along. Remember, the Most High know exactly who Israel is and who Israel isn't. So as we're building collectively by the way of this body politic known as Yisrael, things are going to socially correct itself most of the time without necessarily debating it, because the Most High is going to weed out as we're building. Only way a civilization will fall, another civilization has to rise. The rise of Israel is here now. The rise of us coming from out of the triple states of darkness that we've been in is here right now. And I'm telling you, you can see the from it being from a grassroots nationalistic movement. Now we developing civilization. So I'm proud to be a part of that. So for me, at this moment where I'm at and my spiritual awakening is, I tend not to focus on the doctrinal difference. If one wants to have a constructive debate, then I would do it privately with them, because the position I'm in, I need for Israel as a whole to unite. And as we're building everything on the socially correct itself. Now, does that mean that I will sit and pray with an Israelite, and congregate that believe that JC is the Most High? Not at all. But there are certain national issues that I will connect with that brother or that sister with. You see what I'm saying? So I just want to make that clear to the listening audience where I stand at as a Torah-centered Hebrew Israelite. So, I'm not going to pray with somebody that acknowledges JC is the Most High. But that don't mean that I can't deal with that person when it comes to certain national issues. We have to be realistic and understand that the world is against all Israel. They're not separating your Torah only, your Messianic. They're not doing that. I think I hear some feedback, but it's fine though. So that's my answer.
I'm listening. The only way I'm able to hear you is a delay. It's a delay, so
it's fine. It's fine.
But no, I heard everything you said.
Good.
Yeah, I heard everything you said. Praise the mighty Yah, and everything you said was beautiful. And that's that's what it's about. As you mentioned, my teacher, Morey Elisha, Yisrael.
Yeah, that was the man.
Formed an organization called,
I knew your teacher well,
the Restoration of the Sacred Laws of the Most High Conference.
Yes. He used to be in the Jerusalem Chronicle.
Say that again.
I said your teacher used to be in the Jerusalem Chronicle newspaper, and he had one of his beliefs. He believed that a day started at sunrise and not sunset. And that was like, if you want to call it a controversy, right. It was a controversy. I ain't gonna lie. It was a controversy, but it was respectful. It wasn't like how it is now, on social media, the disrespect and all that. You had, Morey Elisha is, to me, one of the best scholars that totally destroyed Christianity. It's like, after listening to Morey Elisha, there's no way you could be a Christian. If you still a Christian, it's because you just being rebellious. But Morey Elisha was a very strategic debater. And a lot of people don't know, he's one of the founders. He's one of the founders of debates. Before it was even like the YouTube and all that, Morey Elisha was already debating. He was a man of mans, and he was straightforward, and he stood what he stood for, and may continue to rest in completeness. We have to now start documenting the living and the deceased amongst our leaders, because Moreh Elisha impacted Israel worldwide in many avenues that shouldn't be forgotten. So it's up to us to document those that came before us and those that came before us but still here today. We have to document what they left. We have to, because we're taking on the torch. So my Isha right now is putting like encyclopedia together of the Israelites that came starting around 1775 to 2023. You know, we got to remember those like Prince Asiel. We got to remember Moreh Elisha. We got to remember, you know, Rabbi Matthews and Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner. We got to remember those that came before us so we can pass this information to our Yiladim, to our children, so they know that they have a rich history in Israel. And we also have to document it so those that are from the opposite side don't tell the narrative of our history, because every time they tell the narrative of our history, it's always negative, or there's a distortion of truth. Like there's a book called Black Judaism by a man named James Landon. And inside that book, he tries to put the projection that we got into the Israelite culture through the Pentecostal movement. And us being in the Pentecostal movement, the Israelite culture was an outgrowth of that. And this is just a historical lie and fallacy that has to be checked through the participation of our form of academia. We have to take the academic, structure from out of the hands. Excuse me, I'm just getting rid of a cold. From out of the hands of those whose objective is to see our demise and their rise. And what they're doing is using institutions of higher learning to deceive the masses. Remember the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse, I believe 25, when it says that the Euro Gentile will have a time and a half a time to rule. That understanding is by the way of institutions of higher learning. They control the spiritual Magna Charta. So in that retrospect, they're able to be the conqueror who holds the pen, and they use Western academia as a science to deceive the masses. So for the Mighty Hebrew University, it's not about conforming to Western academia. It's a total opposite to Western academia. So that's what I'm doing.
I got your audio back in my ear as well. So praise the Mighty Yah. Right. So,
hallelujah.
Yeah, I heard everything you said, and that's beautiful. Like I was saying about Moreh Elisha, he founded what is called the Restoration of the Sacred Laws of the Most High Conference, and this was the point of the conference, to come together and discuss the laws of the Most High. What are the differences that we have, and how can we come together and agree on? Because why should we be of two different opinions? And like you said, when Moreh Elisha dealt with things that were controversial, like day and night and various other things, it was dealt with scholarly. It was dealt with respect and honor. He honored and respected the teachers and the Israelites that he called together and that decided to come together and have these discussions. It was not about division. It was not about who's a better speaker, who has, it wasn't a competitive situation in where we can see if we can upstand the other teacher. It was about, let's come together and discuss the laws of Yah and get them right. So, we have to do that. We have to continue that. Like you said, we have to mark the things that these elders and teachers were doing. We have to, put that in the history books and honor their memories, and also continue the work that they paved the way for us to do. So it's beautiful on what you're saying and how you're continuing that legacy of honored work and respected work and dealing
Okay.
with, coming together as a nation, because how are we going to be a nation if we don't deal with each other? And that's the whole point of even this discussion with you, because you have that experience, you're out there, you have that understanding, and we have to
Okay.
break the walls down that are separating us. We can't be
Okay.
afraid to deal
And
with them.
we pushing eldership too, man.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
almost there.
Well, don't get. I'm not as close as you, brother.
You don't want to be with me, man. You want to let me go alone, huh?
No, I'm gonna come with you, but I'm just saying you got a couple years before me.
Okay,
Nah,
okay. Like, not yet. You ain't 50 yet.
I still got the black.
Right.
But nah, we definitely are, coming up, and we have to keep that torch going. But we definitely have to break down these walls that divide us. And we can't be afraid to deal with the hard questions. We can't be afraid to deal with the hard issues. Because like you said, it's not like we're gonna go start praising JC. It's not like we about to, go and do that. But that doesn't mean we can't talk to our people. Yeah, that doesn't mean we can't talk to our people. That doesn't mean we can't meet with them and say, hey, let's look at this. Let's deal with this. There's one Yah. So open that book up and tell me where you see more than one Yah. If you see more than one Yah, all right, but it's not there. But we know there's one Yah, and they know there's one Yah. It's not something you can disagree with,
Facts.
And so that's beautiful, and that's great that what you're doing over there with the Mighty Hebrew University. I hope people look at it, see what they can learn from it, and just and there's no people are going to college and they're going to different schools that their enemies are making them pay multi-thousands of dollars for. And they're going to schools like that are ran by the Catholic Church. They're going to schools that are ran by the Christian Church and the Islamic institutions. They're going to schools that are completely pagan, that do pagan things. And they're paying thousands of dollars to go to these schools to get a Bachelor of Arts and Science. And it's their enemies teaching them. So we know we can't hear nobody say, oh, I'm not going to check out the Mighty Hebrews University because he's teaching about cosmogenesis. What the heck is cosmogenesis? Well, why don't you look it up and find out what it is?
Right.
If you don't want to take that course, don't take that course. But I did see a language course. I did see a history course. And we're learning history of our enemies. Why don't we learn history from our people? So I like that idea. It's beautiful. It's what we need to do. Praise the mighty Yah. Praise the mighty Yah.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on the last about 15 minutes of our program. We have a lot of people making comments and things on our chat lines. But if anybody has any questions, I want to open the floor up. If anybody want to ask the Mighty Hebrew any questions of anything that they want to ask.
Is this on YouTube?
YouTube and Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anybody
read some of the comments.
Yeah, okay, I get to. I mean, there's a lot of them. But there's a lot of comments. But I also want to see if anybody has any questions that they might want to ask me or the Mighty Hebrew for coming on our program. A lot of people just giving a lot of affirmations of shalom, and that was beautiful. Let's see, but let me see. We got a brother, Michael Shaw, the second, says his father-in-law was a school teacher in Uganda for many years. He tried to teach his students about slavery and African-American experience in the U.S., but the British banned him from teaching in Uganda schools. So that talks to something that you mentioned.
I can see that to be true, because you got to remember there's a projection that they're putting out when it pertains to so-called African Americans on one side, and then a projection of what's going on over here in Africa.
Right.
So if he's in Uganda, and let's speak about Uganda, in the Ugandan culture, the chiefs over there in some of the tribes acknowledge that they come from a line of 33 kings going back to King David. And this is why one of the reasons before the said Jews looked at Israel, the first place they were looking at was like in Turkey area. And then from there, you start looking at Uganda to be their homeland because of the oral traditions of many of the Ugandan people acknowledging themselves as Israelites. So if Michael Shaw II's Abba would have been open to be able to teach about the so-called African-American experience, then there would have been a greater appreciation on both sides when it comes to the brothers and sisters in Africa and the brothers and sisters over in America. And the British did have major control. You can get a book called Black and White in East Africa by Herman Norton. And he breaks all that down, how the British would use educational propaganda to enslave the masses. And this is what they have done. This is when you listen to the youth over here in Africa, they have been thoroughly brainwashed. And one of the things that I will say to the Black conscious community, stop romanticizing Africa to people amongst so-called African Americans and so-called West Indian Negroes, because the projection that they putting out there about Africa is not true. It's not true. It's a fantasy that has been created to give Black people in America a sense of pride. But when you come to Africa, it's very different. It's very different. And when you understand colonization and colonialism, then you can understand why. But if you don't understand colonization and colonialism, things that you may see may have like a distaste. It might be distasteful if you don't understand what's going on. If you don't understand the true struggle and revolution, you'll fall victim and may not like what you see.
Right. That's good wisdom. That's good wisdom. Let me see if there's any more comments on here. A lot of people just giving praises to the Most High for the meeting. Everybody's loving the meeting. But yes, if anybody had any other questions, just let us know in these last 15 minutes. I also wanted to, you're over there in Tanzania, and one thing you mentioned this earlier, that you had looked at, a lot of our people go to West Africa when they think about going to Africa. But when I looked into going to West Africa, you had to take shots that were unclean, blood in them, and swine.
No shots in Tanzania.
No shots in Tanzania. So we could travel to Tanzania and
no shots, no COVID, no nothing.
And that's
nothing.
And what I always thought was beautiful is that the places where you don't have to get shots is where our land is where our people are.
All right. You don't listen. My whole family, none of us took no COVID vaccinations. You don't have to take no shots to come to Africa. None of that stuff.
That's beautiful information
None
to know.
of that. We vaccination free, 100%.
Praise God.
And to this day, I still haven't caught COVID or nothing yet.
He's still with me. Everybody's still with me. My brother's still with me. Still there, bro?
Yep, I'm here.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, so we didn't have to, like, they wasn't wearing no mask or nothing. May the late President John McAfee rest in completeness. You know, I studied some well because, like I said, I was originally going to go to Ghana, West Africa.
Right.
But then I started to study the background of that Pacific president and his interconnections with the Jesuits and all that. So I said, no, I ain't going over there. And furthermore, if you read in Zephaniah 3, it talk about how the Most High supplements beyond the rivers of, Ethiopia. So we know that's West Africa and all that. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, there will be a yearning to return to the land. Right. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing us coming to the This right here is the second wave of Yeshayahu, chapter 11, 11, and 12, that we would come from all four corners.
Right.
Zechariah, chapter 12, verse 7, talk about the tents of Judah be first. And what did we see in the 60s? We seen the tents of Judah setting up shop over in Israel, over in Dimona. So they became the forerunners of what we're seeing right now. So there's a massive exodus right now taking place right now in small pockets.
Right.
You know, that's leaving America consistently, along with the West India Islands and even like in the UK and places like that. So we doing great things over here. And I'm just glad to be a part of this wave. And anybody that want to come visit, they can just hit me up on my email, Mighty Hebrew 4, Mighty Hebrew 4, like the number 4. So Mighty Hebrew 4 at gmail.com. People have already come to see, the work that I'm doing out here. Even if you just want to just see what's going on, or you want to do like our forefather Abraham did and have that faith and get up and leave, it can definitely be done. It's whatever the spirit of the Most High leads you to be, that's where you'll be. And I don't even knock people that may look at that's the flea doctrine. We shouldn't leave yet. See, as a Hebrew Israelite sovereign national, you understand everything is strategic. So it may be necessary for some Israelites that's a part of the 1/3 to still be in the land of the great captivity for a period of time, for whatever specific reason the Most High have them there. It could be to bridge a gap between us over here and our brothers and sisters in America. Everything has reasons and objectives. And once we can start looking at the world like that, then we can move correctly on the chessboard. But as long as we be like, oh, that's the flea doctrine, they over there, or we'll just be like, man, it's time for us to leave. They just going to be destroyed in America. Versus everything is necessary.
Right.
Everything is necessary. And the Most High, and I learned that from looking at how the Most High moved in Joseph's life, along with Daniel's life. Everything has its reason.
Right.
And it was just one Kung Fu movie. I think it was called The Council or something like that, right? And it was this man, he went into his father and mother, they were like real important in the government, and the Chings took over and murdered his family. So he wanted revenge. So he wound up going to the Shaolin Temple and learning. And what happened for him to infiltrate, it was the Manchus, not the Ching, it was the Manchus. For them to destroy the Manchus, it was certain things he had to do that was necessary. So he had to put himself in a position to look like he was a traitor of the Shaolin Temple just to destroy that whole empire. The point that I'm saying is,
King David destroyed the Philistines.
Say that one more time.
King David, he looked like he was fighting for the Philistines, but he was going and destroying their land. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get the bigger piece of the pie, so to say. So again, this is where Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism does. It causes you to see things and place things correctly so then we can go to the next step.
That's right.
So for those that have the will and heart to come, please, they can come. Also, I don't know if y'all do the donation thing, but we here, they can donate. My brother here, he has the Cash App. Anybody that want to donate at the, for the Mighty Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalistic Repatriation Movement, you can $ Princess Etana. I'm pretty sure you have that, correct, my lord?
Yeah, I have. No, you sent me the other ones just.
Okay. Yeah, Princess Etana. It'll be a capital P, everything else lowercase for princess, and then a capital E, everything else lowercase, ITANA. $Princess Etana, EITANA. So if anybody want to donate, we prove where our monies go. We out here, we living, and it'll be an honor to have more brothers and sisters come out here. It can be a social and cultural shock when you first come, but even when you eat, I remember when I was eating, the food was so pure. It was just running through me. Like my body had to get used, and you're going to get that homesickness. Like I went nuts. All I wanted was some good macaroni and cheese and some collard greens. Right? So I'm like going nuts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
but we do got some questions now on the line. Let's see if we get to them.
Yes, sir.
And we are getting down to the last wire. But here we go. Said question for both of us. What is the strongest element that can be used to gather the Most High's people together?
That's a good question. I think the strongest element that we can use to really gather us up is the words that Aretha Franklin spelled out, and that's respect. See, once we understand that we can agree to disagree with respect, I'm talking about real respect, the respect that we used to have. Look at Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
Everybody in Black Wall Street, they all weren't Christians. You had differences and things, but they understood the importance of unity by the way of respect. And when you can respect one's fig and vine tree or their space to grow, then from there will be unification just with respect.
Yeah.
You don't have to, a lady might use a cloth to clean her floor, where you might use a mop, but the end result, the floor is clean in both homes. Right. The point that I'm trying to say is sometimes we can't judge people objectively because each person has their experience. Like you might hear somebody judge, here goes something right here. In the Torah, it tells us that prostitution is abomination. That's true. It is an abomination. But say if you come to a country in Africa where prostitution is high and the prostitutes are looked at as just regular citizens and they're not being looked at crazy. If you have an economy that is so like crippled and you have a woman that might have 8 children, husband died, only way she can feed herself is through prostitution. And this is true in many African countries. How do we handle that? See, the point that I'm trying to express is that we have to not be quick to judge things objectively. because subjectively or spiritually, we don't know what them people are going through or what they've been through.
Right.
So we have to really look. Even the prostitute that was on our side during the time of Joshua.
Right.
You ain't hear Joshua say, look at that person. Whoop, whoop. No. She had a mission.
Right.
She was a part of a bigger scheme that she didn't even have a clue.
Right.
But she knew that the spirit of y'all was with us.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing that I'm saying, the certain things I see in Africa. When I first came, I was like, what? But then once I start seeing the economic structure and what's actually going on over here, it had me look like, okay, when I read in the scripture, this is talking about us having our own sovereign autonomy, and our people have a choice to do what is right and what is wrong, versus one that is in a state of survival. That's two different things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Africa really did something to me and my family. It made me understand that I'm really an Israelite, not just reading a book and getting all this academic knowledge and debating and crushing people in debates. No, it's causing me to function myself as an Israelite.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because over here, that's what you see. No, what you say, Morat?
Really be a part of it.
Okay, Morat. So it's, and I would never change this experience. Like my YAH'S experience may differ from my experience, meaning we have a collective experience, but we also have individual experiences too. Right. You know what I mean? So they both go hand in hand. So, you know, for me, it's been like really an eye opener, you know, and it also showed me how far we've been away from our land.
That's right.
You know, we have become very greedy in the United States, very greedy, and it's a part of our destruction.
Yeah.
You know, we gotta get back to the soil. We gotta get back to the land. There's in the 21st century, now it's time for us to push self-autonomy because America is finished. It's finished. And time is like ticking. So for 1/3, please come from up out of her. Come from up out of her as fast as you can. You know what I mean? If you're not ready, prepare yourself to be ready for the kingdom of Yahweh. As we see in Daniel chapter 2:44, that image with our hand, that's us. We're going to break into pieces these kingdoms by our activation and presentation of showing the world not only that we're Israel by word of mouth, but by action and deed. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And since you said the question with both of us, I also believe that we have to love each other. That's going to be the thing that's no different than respect, because you got to have respect for those you love. So we got to love our people. We have to love our people. That we ain't going to come together if we hate each other. And we got to keep the Torah that says, love your neighbor as yourself. Praise him. Yeah. Another question we're really running over time, but I want to get these two questions in. One of the questions is, what Bible do most in Africa read from? They said they've heard that some there go by the Ethiopian Bible. What are your views on that? Or should people, and you already covered this, should people try to move there at this time? And
a lot of most of Bible readers over here be reading the King James version, translated in Kiswahili. The Ethiopian version of the Bible is really isolated in Ethiopia.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have them here and there amongst the Rastafarians over here in Tanzania that may deal with the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Bible is nothing but the Bible with what they would consider pseudepigraphical books in it. It might have Maccabees and different things like that, and some other things, Enoch, Jubilees, Jasher, things like that. But what's important, again, is like the Moray said, is Torah. We gotta, I feel as though, remember the prophecy in Daniel chapter 10:25. I'll be a time and a half a time that they'll rule. And also knowledge would run to and fro. So we in the information age, even when you Google and what they got, yahoo.com, ain't Yahoo a name for the creator? So they're imitating the creator by the way of the information age through social media. And I feel as though when you look at Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, and they talk about the many books, I feel as though if you don't have the spirit of an initiated adapt within the Hebrew Israelite nation, you can become consumed in so many books that you lose your way in Torah. I feel as though that you have to be born or shaped, so to say, a certain spirit and character to not to go astray. This is why before you had prophets, you had seers. There were certain people in our midst that can read information and not be consumed in that information. So if you're not grounded in Torah, then you can become embellished through the many books that will cause a weariness to take. When it talks about the weariness of the flesh, it will cause you to question the obvious. You see what I'm saying? That need no questioning. So I advise brothers and sisters, if you're doing a lot of outside research, that you should at least saturate yourself with scholars and mores and those that came before you, or sit under the tutelage of master teachers within our community to help you to navigate so you don't fall into, as we seen in that movie, what was that movie where he was falling in the sunken place?
Get Out.
Get Out. And a lot of Israelites are falling victim into the dark art. I just did a documentary. I feel as though everybody should watch it. It's on YouTube. It's called From Holiness to Hoodoo. And it's probably over 3.5 hours long. It's a documentary. I'm a part of the documentary. It's going to be a 5-part series. That introduction is done. So that's already out. And you can see a gross misconduct taking place within the Black conscious community and even certain segments within the Hebrew Israelite community. You have sisters and even brothers that's getting into the dark art. And they're getting involved in these things because of this search for what is already there. And again, I'm not telling people they shouldn't read books and other things. My thing is a person should know their spirit and what they can deal with. Because if let's say hypothetic, you're a Torah observer, but then you start getting into Torah reading and you reading books on that, numerology, you getting into all this difference, and you start to implement it. It goes through stages. Like you don't just read and just bust out with it. You are just piece by piece until before you know it, you just anti-Torah and anti-Yah, and you ain't even dig it because it happened so fast or within a period of time. Before you know it, you calling on names of other deities and you ain't even peeping. So I tell those that are watching, be mindful and be careful.
Praise the mighty Yah. And the last question we got on here, before we wrap it all up, what's your thoughts on those who say we have to wait until Yah brings us all out together in Ezekiel 20:34 through 38?
Yeah, I again, giving all praise and honor to Yahweh, the Eternal One of Israel. It all depends on one's interpretation. I acknowledge that we lost our identity through measurement. A lot of times when we look at the scripture, we read it and think, boom, that's how it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It didn't even happen like that when you learn who you are. I'm going to give you something that Prince Emmanuel ben Yehuda said, one of the Nasikim in the Holy Council in Damona, Israel. He said, mathematics. When you first learn how to count, you count either from 0 to 9 or from 1 to 10. And as you develop mathematically, the foundation of math remains the same, but your understanding broadens. Now you're dividing. Now you're subtracting, you're adding, you're doing decimals and fractions. Then you build in onto division and algebra 1, 2, 3, and a calculus and trigonometry and logarithm. The basis of mathematics, it's a labyrinth, but it's simple. When you start to read, quote unquote, the Bible, you are first reading from a certain standpoint in your beginning as an infant. But as you develop, your understanding will broaden. So when it talks about all of us will come out, yes, all the 1/3 will come out, but it's not going to just be just one boom mass, like boom. No, we didn't all come out knowing who we are at one time. It was phases and stages. So just like when we lost our monarch, it wasn't a thing that we lost it overnight, even though if you read the curses in Deuteronomy 28, along with Leviticus, the 26th chapter, it seems it's just like, it's just happening like that. But it's not like that. It's a process of elimination through a repetitious practice of indulging in the ideologies of other nations. Mm-hmm. So now, just as we will weed out of our culture into the surrounding nations' cultures, we're going to weed ourselves from out of these cultures around us back. So yes, together, all of us will come out. All of the 1/3 will come out. But I do acknowledge that we're going to be coming out in stages. There has to be a foundation. Somebody has to set the foundation. So people like myself, Sarabah, More Gumal, so many that's coming over to lay the foundation now to prepare the way. This is what's transpiring. My thing is this: if your spirit is telling you that it's not time for you to go, guess what I'll tell you? Don't come. Right. And that don't mean that you're wrong or right. That means that the Most High is dealing with you in that way for whatever reason. When it comes to those that feel as though it's time to come, then come. The work has to be done. To set up a kingdom, we have to build. You can't just say alone and that's it. We're not going to do anything. That's like a man saying, I believe in God. I'm not going to go to work no more. I'm not going to fend for my family. I'm just going to go pray and I'm just going to wait. That's not reality. But what's reality is we pray and then make it happen at the same time. So for those that feel as though this may not be the time, it may not be the time for them. You know what I mean? And those that feel as though it is the time, it may be the time for them. Right. But just know that we're here just laying a foundation down. So then when the time comes, however one wants to see it, the time is going to come. Whether one says now or later, we know it's going to come. So we're just here, paving and preparing the way. That's all.
That's right. And the scriptures do let us know that Yah said that he will save Yehuda first.
Mm-hmm.
He will save Yehuda first. And just like you had quoted earlier, Isaiah the 11th chapter, he said he will set his hand again a second time to gather the remnant from the various places we are scattered. So there's definitely a process to us coming out and returning home. Praise the mighty Yah.
Hallelujah.
Well, praise the mighty Yah. We are at the end of our broadcast. This has been just amazing for me, and I'm sure for all the other listeners. You came with a wealth of knowledge, and you have a whole ton more to give. You have your own university. Anybody that has their own university got a lot of knowledge to give. And,
I'm trying. All praise to Yah, only from Yah.
Praise the mighty Yah. And we need to be able to uncover more jewels like you in our community. We need to be able to talk to each other with honor and respect, even though we might have various different viewpoints of whatever we teach or believe. We all serve Yah and Yah alone, and we need to promote that above everything. There's only one Yah, and that is what we should be coming together under first. If we all know there's one Yah, then let's get together and let's talk about these things, and let's see how we can function as this nation, because we are the nation that's not desired. We see that, like you said, my brother, they are attacking Israel. You can't even mention you black in Africa anymore. You can't even mention that our brother Kyrie Irving, all he said is he looked up Yahweh and they took away his shoe deal. They took away everything. He didn't even say that he served Yahweh. He said he's just looking for what it means. So they're definitely attacking Israel today. They don't want their lie to be exposed. They don't want the truth to be exposed. But we're going to expose it, and we're going to keep doing it as the scriptures said. If ye that make mention of Yah, keep not silence. And we're not going to keep silent. And we're going to have the Mighty Hebrew on our show again. I'm going to take him up on his invite. We're going to come out there and we're going to check out the soil. We're going to see what's happening. And we're going to build and we're going to gather. Praise the mighty Yah.
Hallelujah.
And you can give your last words to the people before we close out.
Oh, man. You want to close out with a song?
Yeah, let me know which song. Let me pull it up. Tell me which one you want to close out.
Let's pull
Want to do one off of the what was the latest called?
Journey to the Dark Side of the Moon.
That one's on the streaming sites, right?
Yeah, the one I send you. The one because I sent that to you for free. But the one that's online is My Mental Is Never Destroyed.
That was the first one, that was the second one.
My Mental Is Never Destroyed, the first album. So far, you've been playing nothing but from the newest album.
Okay, so the new one, yeah, let's do from there.
Okay, so let's see what I want to play. Let's play song number 3.
Okay.
Let's play song number 3.
What's it called? It's called 2/3.
Yup, 2/3. That's perfect. And I just want to close out by saying I want to thank you for having me on your show. It was definitely an honor and a privilege to be on here, and I will come back again. Maybe I can do a PowerPoint presentation. You know what I'm saying? But it was definitely an honor and a privilege. And I definitely want to let everybody know that y'all is with us and we winners. Anybody that say different, we winning. We winning right now all over the world. This last song we're going to close out with 2/3. Hallelujah. Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalism as resident worldwide.
Praise the mighty Yah. Make sure it's the right song. That's the right song right there. That's the right one?
No, that's number 5.
Oh man. Okay, hold on, my bad.
That's number 3.
Okay.
That's the second one.
Okay. That one right
there. There you go. Yup. That's cool.
Journey to the dark side of the moon. The mighty Hebrew. Control. Century. Box with y'all. Use your own reach. Eat a heartbeat. 3 heartbeat. Sees this journey darkness. The moon falls. Mind trapped like Saul. Vanguard of Elohim. This sin that's where Mala beings die like the enemy. Cryptic knowledge. Get lost in translation. Sensation. Awake the pioneer that was eaten by your Gentile apes. Priest by me. Execute to use fate, Hunsu Quan, star on track like the Wrath of Khan. Insane as the membrane on hill, smoking cypress, vision from the iris of MIND. See titans falling as prophecy bomb. Compton, Philly up the Harlem. Israel, I heard the calling of our forefathers into Nam. For Stinson, I'm Sidon speaking sins all. Sins of our Hebrew ancestors saw since the fall from the all. 2/3 robotic like nemesis. 2/3 your lives smooth and swift. 2/3 dying for wickedness. 2/3 rise and return quick. 2/3 robotic like nemesis. 2/3 your lives smooth and swift. 2/3 dying for wickedness. 2/3 rise and return quick. Pioneer fight, priest fight, mate. Quam Yah uphold the way. Allah Hayam vacate child's play. My mind straight, satanic hatred. We live now for the ancients. Resurrect, trick of assassination. My appel be sacred. Spiked up, wearing the turban in the urban. Teaching on street corners for warriors. Reading Torah. To the laws, filling bites and serpents. My people hurting from the curses. Deuteronomy 28, 68 codes. It's verses and scrolls. Blackness eat them, lurking for control. Israelites dark, solid curtains. We buy words, be the chosen. Devil speak when you spoken. Prince Matazaryam, Yasharahla, crushing you nations, idle powers into powder. Bodies under dead flowers, the way of a samurai. Never live as cowards, we uphold honor. For Yah Abanawa, a sovereign power, our sire over a Rasazar. Lion king of Zion, conquer the liar. Spit to knock fire, to burn Esau into stumble. Truth they fumble, World War III, Royal Rumble. Silence the crafty mumble, to us they bow their heads humble. Gadites got the beast running. Back to dungeons of London to watch jackals feast on their carcass, living dormant and cliffs up the rocks, mountain climb. They fell from Yah as savages, dirty, nasty, river rat bastards. They misplay Queen's dragon, fucking faggots. I expose faggots, Pope Benedict sucking dick. This is the real shit that tells you what's here. If you don't want to hear it, close your ears. Mojito is near, beware. Soon your faces will melt from your tendons by a nuclear nemesis. Born in new spirits, I do me us. Rulership is finished. Yai quabs just beginning. The surface breaking through iron meat and fifth deadly venom. Told shadow, you sinners. War is our vengeance. It's not the sickness and rise to healing. If y'all's eat grandchildren, 2/3 robotic like nemesis. 2/3 robotic like nemesis. 2/3 your lives smooth and swift. 2/3 dying for wickedness. 2/3 rise and repent quick. 2/3 robotic like nemesis. 2/3 your lives smooth and swift. 2/3 dying for wickedness. 2/3 rise and repent quick. Shalom Bahashim Yahweh Hakovish Yisrael Shema Yisrael Yahweh Eloheinu Yahweh Had. Journey to the dark side of the moon 2022. The mighty Hebrew, live and direct. Tanzania, East Africa, all the way from Philly. Hunting Park in the building. We be the Elohim. We got 311 trillion, 40 billion year history. From the dimension of Bantu, incarnated 5.5 million BCE. By the way of the Ramahos, post-Diluvian, as the children of Israel, also known as the Hebrew Israelite sovereign nation.